It is just under 2 weeks to the new year, so it is right to say that 2023 is at its epilogue. A storied year of political transition, economic recalibration, and many adjustments. Top figures changed parties, many citizens changed their minds on many issues, and even the Naira changed its color, although not completely successfully. In getting a sense of where we are after an eventful year, well, it is important to situate our discussion around governance and economic development. Events around the world lend credence to the importance of good governance and responsive political systems to long-term economic growth of nations. An important study in Asia used 6 indicators to rate governance. They are political stability, accountability and citizens' participation, rule of law, government's effectiveness in formulation and implementation of policies, regulatory quality in key sectors, and the final one, but not the least, control of corruption. We will borrow these indicators as we review Nigeria's quest to marry its dreams with positive actualities in 2023. Those who should know are with us tonight. I'm Fisayo Ogunfuyi, and this is Tuesday Live. Before we go into the conversation proper, let's get to see this report by Bolaji Akim, our correspondent in Lagos.
Governance goes beyond acquisition of political power, as it also defines economic capabilities of government. The goal of any government is to improve the living conditions of our citizens through formation, implementation, and monitoring of financial policies that will bring succor to the populace, most especially during economic crisis.
Previously, before economics became a different discipline, it was actually called political economy, because you can't divorce economic management from governance. Political leadership defines policies, and economic policies are some of the components of the policy defined by political leadership. So you can't separate both. The decision made by the political leaders define how the economy will perform. But interestingly, in the long run, the economic forces will compel political leaders to take the right decisions.
Government, which provides the governance, are the planners of the economy. So they formulate the policies and they also implement these policies. So essentially, what they do, how they do it, the discipline they put into it, the rigors they put into it, the vision that is leading whatever they do, determines how well the economy will prosper or will be resilient, even when it is facing challenges that are beyond the internal control of that particular government.
Considering the connection between the economy and governance and how both affect Nigerians generally, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, on assumption of office, rolled out plans towards revamping the nation's economy. This was done through engaging stakeholders who analyzed the economic situation of the country and came up with policies that will rebuild the economy.
He made some critical economic decisions. He made some decisions that reduced, that created a lot of, high and whole in the economy. And we now saw that he has a tentative agenda towards making sure that he addressed those issues that some of those policies, created. One of the key bottleneck that we have had in this country that is actually setting us back in terms of ease of doing business and all of that is the issue of double taxation. We saw him setting up a tax committee to come up with a reform that will remove all the bottlenecks around taxation in Nigeria.
The importance of small and medium-scale enterprises in driving the wheel of good governance brought about provision of enabling environment and policies to woo foreign investors.
It analyzes the economy where it is operating to understand where the gaps are, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, what are the opportunities that may exist, and what are the challenges. So this analysis against the vision that it has set for the country will help us to formulate the policies. These policies are meant to drive the country from where it is to where the leadership want to take it.
Stakeholders believe that with the right government policies being implemented, the country's economy will stand strong. In Lagos, Bolaji Akim.
Thank you, Bolaji. And to dissect this and many other issues in 2023, I have in the studio Mr. Matthew Bonjibola, is it Coordinating Director, Compliance at the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
And our new Senior Advocate of Nigeria is in the house, Dr. Kaude Ajulo, and I think the suit has changed somehow. It looks shinier these days. But congratulations first on the attainment of the Senior Advocate of Nigeria. And thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Also to join us, of course, from our Kano studio is Mahmoud Othman, is Group Affairs Public Consultant and Elder Statesman from our Kano studio. He will join us later, I understand. And of course, we have Mohammed Mutaka Usman, a professor of economics from ABU Zaria. He will be joining us via Zoom. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you to have me.
All right. So we will be, let's start this way. Let's start from, our council in the House and looking at, 2023. We're looking at some of the indicators. The issue of rule of law jumped at me immediately. How do we marry that, in making sure that society is on an even keel?
Well, when we talk of governance, now we're not even talking of good governance. Governance itself is how the institution have been able to conduct the public affairs and then manage the public resources. And in doing that is for a purpose, and that purpose is first to allow the people within that community, within that state, to have free hand so that they can compare. There's something we call million goal, and this issue comes with the comparatives. Now, when you raise the issue of rule of law, you find that there's a set of rules, like what regulates whatever it is. And to me, I do say it's an antithesis of whims and caprice. We may be sitting here. Once we have a regulation that this is the way we have to govern ourselves, what many people don't believe is that because the way our democracy is, it is representative of people that give us that set of rules. That means that all of us, we've agreed. And you find out that, to your question, it gives some optimal output, since we have something that can guide us. It is different from where maybe it will now be to your own dictator, to my dictator. No, and that what we call rowdiness, and that what we call something, and some people will feel cheated. And that's why you see today we have ethnic agitation. Some people believe there is a short change, there's all those things. But with that rule of law, you can see that the society to some point is stabilized. Let me give you an example. This year is an election year. One thing that we should give, and that is kudos to rule of law, irrespective of the hues and cries, those that felt cheated, you can see that they still take recourse to that rules of law by saying that if you lost in an election, the first thing you need to do is to file your petition. You hardly see, and I don't think there's any report of anybody taken to streets, burning houses the way we are. That means that there is still belief, respect, and faith in our institution, that there is institution of government that will reverse whatsoever injury or whatever may be your grievances. That is where rule of law starts. Are they being that woe betides us if we don't have such kind of rules, regulation, mechanism?
I believe in it.
And believe in it. You will see that the whole world will be born. We will not be sitting here. NTA will be one of the targets. I think you agree with me. But these are the part
Although
of
I do not, but let's go.
Anyway, so you can see that through that, people faith and believing that there is rule of law. Irrespective of how you see judiciary is being attacked, abused, I believe it's part of grievance, it's part of emotional outbursts. Some of them don't even mean it. It's a way of letting out what they feel is wrong. But what matters most is that we have mechanism, we have a way of doing things right, and that has been exhibited. And I think that is kudos to what we have.
All right, Mr. Bonjola, you saw, the first report by Bolaji Akim, and he was talking about, Dr. Taiwo Udili's committee, talking about fiscal policy and tax reforms. We had a discussion about this about 2 months ago, and you gave us some insight. From that point of concept, an actuality? Are we getting closer to the targets?
Yeah, thanks very much. Yes, we are, in one very simple answer. And if you take a step back to when the presidential committee was set up, the committee's work was partitioned into two broad lots. One is called the quick wins, and those are the things that stare us in the eyes and that we need to do very quickly. For example, we had removed the subsidy on petroleum. We had deregulated the forex market, and so the economy was more or less reacting to those issues. So questions is, what do we need to do immediately to ameliorate the pains of the people? And that was achieved, I think about 3 weeks ago. The committee was able to deliver the deliverables under those immediate action items. Part of it was the waiver of interest and penalties on outstanding tax liabilities all over the country, which the FRS had made a public notice and already granting those ones. That's to do with cooperation between FRS and customs to ensure that goods don't tarry long at the port, and so things are done faster. And so that's one lot. Then the other lot are things that would take probably a longer time, like between 6 months and 1 year. And that has to do with reviewing the whole gamut of tax laws. We have too many tax laws, and so bringing them together in a very manageable size. Two is the issues of multiplicity of taxes, which had been one of the major complaints of businesses in the economy, to address it in a way that, one, we ensure that we are able to do businesses freely, and also ensure that our governments are able to realize adequate revenue to run governance. So these are things that are already happening, and hopefully in not too few months from now, you will begin to hear what had been done along that path. I also know that underneath, behind the scenes, there are a lot of collaborative effort among agencies of government, the Central Bank of Nigeria, FRS, Customs, CAC, everybody working together to see how to synergize and ensure that where we have to learn from each other, where we need to share data, all of these are happening behind the scenes to ensure that by the time the new laws and the new rules come into play, everybody will be on board. So again, coming back to answer your question directly, yes, we are moving to the target.
All right, sir. Let's bring in Professor Muntaka Osman, on this issue. You've seen some, let's take a bit from what Mr. Bonjibola just shared with us. As a professor of economics, what are, the quick wins that you've seen so far? And perhaps you may want to also tell us where we still need to go.
Something to do with economics. You look at the whole broader issues in terms of the fiscal space the government has, and to what extent that fiscal space will provide the impetus for alternative policies that will ginger growth as well as good governance. For instance, in the last 1 or 2 years, the economy all over the world grapples with issues of resilience over a period of time. Issues concerning COVID-19, recessions, physical crisis, as well as climate change, to mention some of the issues. And globally, with the energy crisis as a result of Ukraine and Russian war. These are all issues a policymaker in terms of trying to establish a governance issues need to be And the most critical thing for Nigeria is the debt servicing, because it's becoming very difficult to do such kinds of things as we also expect. That's why the focus has been recalibrated to provide some leeway for fiscal discipline. So in whole total issues, the policy making must really consider some of the critical fiscal space they have, and whatever that fiscal space can be utilized in order to bring growth and development. So far, one could not judge the basic policies now put on ground, because one, the budget must come out to see where the focus is and to what extent those focus will try to present the aspect of the aspirations of Nigerians, as you were. So many issues in the table in terms of the fiscal crisis, fiscal space, management of those fiscal space is very important going forward. But the most essential thing, we must realize, how do we move the economy to reduce the increasing livelihood crisis in the country in terms of the policy space.
All right, we would, get to calls, but this is not the time for it yet. Let's just set the tone for today's discussion. Then we'll get to that. Dr. Ajulo, you've seen how things unfolded, at the beginning of the year and all that, and what we saw, even in terms of, before we transited into this dispensation. Some will say the colorization of the naira, the pigments change, but we still have the old ones and all that. Have we been able to instill confidence in such a way, in terms of governance generally, to, get the citizens buy-in in some of the things we do, even if they, let's assume and agree, that they are very good policies, but have we been able to advertise to the Nigerian, for instance, that this is the right way to go?
Well, my answer will not be a straightforward answer, to not yes or no, because we have to be sincere. There are some government policy, its implementation, we need to give kudos to the government in the way it's being implemented. Whereas again, in some, it's, I think if you have to score them, is to score them 0. For example, you mentioned the issue of the currency, whatever name we can call it. It is so clear that that is the clear case of when you want to get a policy wrong, and it really went bad. And without saying, you can even know that it has to go to the Supreme Court. That is, the court has to determine. And kudos to the judiciary, because at the end of the day, I think they are the one that saved the nation. People died. I have examples. Even like I do tell somebody, I nearly lost my mom through the process. So, but what matters most is at the end, what do we have? We have an institution of government that have been able to bring sanity back to the fold. Because, like I mentioned, the issue of that currency is not how to govern, not how to implement policy, but it was as if something just went wrong, and it's so unfortunate that we find ourselves in that situation. But like I mentioned, good enough, we have one institution of government that can rally around and to return the country to the right path. And another one, whatever we may talk about election, we have a transitional government, of transitional process, in which from one, whatever we call it, from one government to another, whereas power changes hand, like you can see what happened to the President Muhammadu Buhari. Whatever we like, there are a lot of doom's prophet that says something will go wrong, he may not hand over and all that. But at the end of the day, we saw happen. And we can see with the numbers of those that participated in that election, whatever names you can call it, but at least we have a smooth election where we have the president, which in whatever ramification you can say it, has a popular mandate. In the context, particularly when you see the way the electoral acts, because many people, because most of those who are criticizing the process did not even understand what law is. We are not saying that we have a perfect election, but it must be in accordance to, when we talk about fair and credibility, fair election and credibility, not the way we see it, but in accordance with the rules and regulation, which here is Electoral Act. And that's why the issue of substantive compliance come to be. So where you can't say because there's a fight in Wuse and in one other places you believe, oh, everything has to be. That is why the law is there, and our court has been able to interpret what that substantiveness means in that. So this is one of the process we can say kudos to the government, because whatever we like it, INEC happen to be an institution of government. The police that ensure law and order, the institution of government. Even the army, with all this spate of bandits, irrespective of the way the bandits try, we still have one united Nigeria. This is one of the things that we can point to say, oh, kudos to our government, kudos to good governance, kudos to developmental agenda and the implementation of policy, and many others. But like I keep on saying, I think one has to be personal here. I have my own industry, that is the law and the judiciary. We perform excellently well.
Well, before you, maybe I'd address a bit before you give kudos to yourself finally. But let's interrogate this a little bit. Yeah. Are we going now? Is this now the cycle? Pre-election, election, and then post-election litigation. It's not cast in stone. That is how it will be. We can't just have election and then everybody goes home, we give thumbs up to the institutions and go home. We must end up in your courts.
Let's be sincere. First, you asked me a question about rule of law. It is laid down procedure. One thing we have to know is this.
No, because what we're having now is that for anybody to go into election in Nigeria, you keep money aside for adverts and road shows and campaigns and all that. Then you still keep money for lawyers and sons, and you get more of this. When we are going to, and then for the different courts as we graduate to exhaust all our protests.
Let us understand one thing. Our laws provides for election. Our election will take place every 4 years, and the process start with pre-election. That is within the party primaries. Before, if you remember, there was a time we believed that anything about primaries has to be the private affairs of each party. That we call it internal party affairs. But the way our laws evolve, still believe that there are some aspects which, if there's anything, particularly when it comes to violation or touching on the laws of the land. For example, if the laws ask that there must be a primaries, that must be done in so manner, and where it is not done in such manner, some people may feel aggrieved. And don't forget that by Section 5 of our Constitution, any grievance, it is the court that will resolve it. So we shouldn't be worried, and I don't think they should be applauded by making use of that mechanism of taking recourse to court than taking to street. This is what you should ask yourself. Which one are we going to ask for? Is it those people taking that, oh, let us go to the court, or take to the street? And that is why my first statement is to say we have to give kudos to such thing, because if not, the country will be burning. And as it is, many people still feel aggrieved. But the way the law is developing, with the authorities, plethora of authorities we're having, gradually the politician will know that there will be an end to litigation. But as it is, it's a learning process. And let us be sincere, the political party must learn, because you can see that the space of pre-election matters seem to be rising most of the time. And that one, the blame could only be with the political parties, particularly those that believe that they have the final say, forgetting that there are laws that regulates all these party primaries. And whenever such things happen, what is expected is for people to take recourse to court. Though I will not fail to mention that those that they knew that they failed, they knew that what they did is wrong, they knew that I lost this election, but because some people, I happen to be the National Secretary of Political Party before, I know some people, knowing fully well that have no case in this matter, but to keep their followers, you know, hope is one of the biggest currency to sell. To believe that I will still have hope, let us go to court. And with that, they still believe that some people have hope in them, but gradually, they will soon see the way it is, and this thing will be fading gradually. And I think, and I so much, and that's why again, you can see what the court, particularly Supreme Court, did in this pre-election matter. They immediately, most of it has been dispensed with. There are some that they never entertained to believe you don't need to waste our time. Ask the lawyer, please withdraw this matter, let us move on. Now you can see most of them have about almost 16 of such cases that are handled that they ask the petitioner to withdraw the matter. And but again, they will not tell their followers, this is what happened in court. The only thing they will quickly mouth it quickly to say, oh, the judge, the court has taken bribe, blah blah blah, and without, and you know, many people who have access to court to know what happened, what transpired in court. And these are the things you see recently, the criticism of judiciary. Most of them, they are not real. And if you want to find out which one is real or not, approach the NJC, ask the NJC how many petitions against any of this judicial conduct that you can see. You find out that it's next to nothing, but on social media, on the TV, everybody shouting, judiciary has done this, they've taken bribe. But the right place to present such issues, you will never see them approaching it, because of one reason, they don't have any fact, any particular to press that the allegations.
You have taken us to your sector somehow, but let's quickly come back very quickly. If our guest is ready, in Muhammad Othman from Akano Studio, Group Affairs Public Consultant, elder statesman, Muhammad Othman, is he ready now for us in Kano so that we can get his opening comments?
Well, good evening, viewers, and compliments of the season to our Christian brothers and sisters. Even though I didn't have the privilege of listening to you carefully on all what you are discussing in the studio, but the topic of today's discussion says everything about the issues at stake. When you are talking of governance in Nigeria, it's a multifaceted problem, and it depends on what you want to concentrate on. We have been in transition now from the last government to this government since May 29th, and as of now, we have some idea where this government is heading to. It has inherited a lot of problems which we have discussed already. Problem of infrastructure, energy, unstable currency of the country, and so many other things. But we have been recycling our problems. Only that we are short of solutions. With all the good intention of this government, a lot of policies have been announced, but the implementation is what we are waiting for. The national perception of the people, as far as they are concerned, they want the government to work, because if it works well, it works for them. And some of the problems, most of our problems are self-inflicted problems. Whether we are talking of election, whether we are talking of security, most of the problems are really self-imposed by us, we Nigerians. So unless we have attitudinal change, no amount of policy or change of constitution will change anything. Are we ready to change our way of doing things? And going back to one of the biggest issues of the moment is this idea of lack of continuity of policies. It is not this government that started it. It has been part of our culture. Every government, whether it is at the national level, state level, or local government level, even in private sector management, when a manager takes over, his general manager takes over, his predecessors are doing something wrong. He wants to do something new. And before he settles down, as they say, time and tide wait for no one. Time is up, and we have not achieved anything. So I think what we are hoping is that those who are responsible for implementing all the policies government is rolling day in, day out, they have a lot to do. There must be synergy. They must work together. Otherwise, Nigerian people do not forgive government because somebody has not done his job. As far as they are concerned, whoever is the head of government is the one they accuse, and whether rightly or wrongly. So what we want is the ministers, heads of departments, whoever has something to implement to make budget realizable, will have to do his job, not business as usual as we say in Nigeria. There must be a change of attitude. People are desperate. They are waiting for something to happen, and the government is capable of doing it. I believe with time we'll expatiate on these issues. Thank you.
Mohammed Othman, an elder statesman, with your perceptions and concise statements at this time. Coming back to Abuja and in the studio, Mr. Bonjibola, you noticed, we've seen the realities, especially in terms of inflation and, the attendant effects of the removal of subsidy and what that has done to most pockets across the country. Why you go about, you come up with policies of trying to, still extract more from our people? Nigerians are saying you have to also look at it, you temper this, some of these concepts with the realities on ground. How much can we really afford the African Nigerian in terms of, the taxes, plans to, get, increase the revenue base and all that. So how creative are some of these new policies to get, what you want in terms of figures, at the same time making the experience not too painful for the Nigerian?
Thank you very much. I think you rightly put this in a bundle, and that is why fiscal issues is like rope walking. In rope walking, you have to really do a lot of balancing. You don't want to go too much to the left or to the right, else the walker falls off the rope. And that's exactly what is faced by this government. It's not again saying that the government has been faced with low revenue over the years. It's not something that is just happening. And that has led to the mountain of borrowings that we have had to accumulate over the years. And now, in one of the reports, I think the first report that came this evening was talking about the issues of infrastructural deficit, issues that needed to lift people out of poverty because people are really suffering. All of this will require revenue. It requires money by government. And then on the other side of it is, can people really pay? Can businesses pay? And that is one of the critical points that the Presidential Committee on the fiscal reform is trying to look at, to work out. And if you look at policies of government in the last couple of years, government has come up with exempting small businesses from taxation. As part of that, government has also come up to exempt the lowest paid workers from taxes. Part of the work of the Presidential Committee is to still see how much can be done to broaden reliefs to small taxpayers, small business people, and then lower paid workers. Now, on the other side, what do we need to do creatively differently to still be able to raise revenue? Part of it is what government is doing to say, look, can we really block all leakages where revenue filter out by bringing in all the revenue agency on the same collection platform, which is very innovative and very creative. Part of it is to say, is there a way we can look at our giveaways? I mean, what I mean by giveaway means tax incentives or tax waivers that we give, wherein taxes that ordinarily should have been collected are given out, and so as to reduce revenue that is filtered away. Part of the creative thing is to say, oh, okay, can we be more efficient in the way we administer taxes and make it as painless as possible? And that is what you see in the Federal Revenue Service in the way we have rolled out a lot of innovative technology to administer taxes, whereby you really don't have to physically visit our office to do things. Now you can generate your tax clearance certificate without having to put any application, because you can do it on the computer by yourself. So these are some of the creative things that we are doing. And I also believe that by the time the committee set up, come up with a final report and all the interventions that are going to come in, you will see quite a number of things that are happening, which I can't share for now because they're still in development. So coming back to you finally is to say that one is that government is doing this balancing. And if you look at the budget for 2024, you will see that the level of borrowing or deficit has actually gone down to about 3% of GDP, which compared to about 5% that we had in the previous year. So these are things that are being done to make sure that as much as we want to get revenue to run government, we also ensure that people don't bear too much pains.
All right, I'll come back to the share numbers, because in terms of some of the collaborations we are having with the Corporate Affairs Commission as well, so that you can perhaps give us some figures. Before we go to Kaduna again, let's just take a report from Kano to further give us, some illumination on the thoughts of people as far as the outgoing year is concerned.
Governance entails the responsible management of the nation's resources for the overall socio-economic growth of the country. For the ordinary Nigerians, seeing food easily on their tables, good education and health care for their children, as well as security of their lives and property, among other social amenities within short time, is what they see as good governance.
In terms of education, let our education be in a good position to enhance it better than as it is now.
Many people used to tell me that you are saying we should pay tax. If we pay tax, we don't see our government doing anything. Now, do your own first. Pay, and then you complain.
However, the subsidy removal by the federal government has been described by the economist as taking bull by the horns, as it has the potential of bringing the long-term economic prosperity despite the immediate pains suffered by Nigerians.
There cannot be laughter without tears. There cannot be pain without pain. And you must break your eggs to make omelette. You understand me? So there are certain things that are really, essentially, components of our development, which we used to tend to forget. And then we look at the good side.
Infrastructure development, like the continuation of the ongoing rail projects, among other numerous projects, in addition to tax reform initiative, experts noted, will translate to a good governance that will transform the nation's economy. In Kano, Amin Umar.
Thank you, Aminu. Let's bring in Prof from Kaduna now. You saw that report and some of the expectations. One of the economic experts there said, we always make this allusion, though if you want to make an omelette, you must break an egg. But Nigerians are saying they would prefer boiled egg. That way, you don't need to break the egg. You can just remove the shell and you can still have access, to the egg. If Prof is there, are there, concepts we can utilize or, adopt to see that, the pain is not so much while we wait for the gain?
Yeah, certainly. The Nigerians are really paying it through their nose. It's a very long time. Various government will say, tighten up, things will get better. But after now, Nigerians have not seen it. So some of the issues are very clear in terms of how long people will suffer on any efficiency of any policy in terms of governance. For instance, coming to tax issue at the first instance in terms of the tax, when you look at in the last 2 quarters, there is increase in revenue collections as regards to tax. One, there is increased collections of 16% increase from the VAT aspect of tax. Income tax, company income tax increased by 26%. So the issue of tax and dividends of that tax must be felt by individuals, because the livelihood of citizens is very important in terms of the utilization of such taxes. The second aspect is some of the policies that will reduce the level of hardship in terms of the rising inflations. There has to be a deliberate attempt in terms of how do we handle those issues of the tripartite crisis in foreign exchange, price stability, as well as the unemployment issues. So these are some of the critical factors that for any reason for government to be sustainable, there must be deliberate attempt to address those issues. Some of the issues that basically to address the issues has inflicted another pain on Nigerians. For instance, the removal of oil subsidy, fuel subsidy as it's called. But we made arguments that yes, that's it is justifiable that the level of subsidy can be removed to what extent. But it was clearly shown that it's not even the subsidy, but the corruption behind the subsidy is what is more damaging than the removal of subsidies. So I think government should do its job in terms of removing the controversies in terms of the corruptions on the subsidy issues as it were, so that people can feel the pulse that the government is on. And for any economy to survive, there must be a stable production process. Without production, you will not be able to.
All right, Prof is breaking up.
High level of tax that you wanted to, because it is only when people produce, then you tax. The issues that is very important in terms of governing issues on the tax matters and the livelihood of the citizen that will amount to giving a good governance.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. Let's take a little bit, from the aspects of the law, Dr. Ajulo. How strong are our, laws, especially those guiding key sectors? And, in your experience, we've seen in so many cases complicity from, even people who are supposed to make sure that, these sectors work. Let's look at some of the, international issues that we've been able to resolve, successfully in the past month. The PNID issue, for instance. You can see the role played by Nigerians in sabotaging Nigeria itself. How do we make our institutions stronger and devoid, at least to a large extent, of these bold corruption practices?
Well, thank you very much. If I should get you very well, you've asked a question, but within this question, about 6 issues has been raised. First, we are talking of how viable, effective our laws are. We're thinking of how to strengthen our institution. We're thinking again of how when it comes to the applying the law, it could be. Now, let me start with this. I do say this everywhere, that when it comes to Nigerian laws, I'm yet to see any law that were crafted with good intention the way we have our laws in Nigeria. We can take the Britain for example, that's United Kingdom. As great as the country is, you can't see that they have one constitution that is written somewhere. Most of the essence of their constitution is basically by tradition and practice, and you can see the way they are moving smoothly. Whereas in our constitution, in our country, not only that we have a written constitution, our constitution is rigid, is on one particular, in one form, and is well drafted with lofty idea. The problem in Nigeria is not about the laws. It's not about how great, how good it is. It's the implementation. And that brings about your second question about the institution. We seem to play high premium on individual in a seat, in a public institution, even private institution, than institution. What matters most is to have a stronger institution, and I think if we must discuss how to come about for the maintenance of good institution, we will take another day, another discussion. But unfortunately,
well, you can touch it.
Yes, but unfortunately, we seem to place premium on individual, whereas it is the institution that matters. Let me give you an example. During the twilight of President Trump, when the issue about some people breaching the security of the Capitol, that is their Congress House, you can see that despite the fact that those people are for the government, are for the sitting president, the institution, particularly the security institution, they already have a manual how to activate themselves without anybody, without looking at who is pulling the lever, who is directing them. Just imagine if it happened in Nigeria, where some people decide to take over somewhere for the sitting president. You can see what it is. All the commanders may even be coward for the man there. But it never happened in America because they have a strong institution without any regard or less regard for who is the individual on that seat. And I think that is what we need to maintain. And how do we bring about that? I do talked about this issue of reward and punishment, and these are the things that makes law strong as we want it to be. Even not only punishment alone, even reward. How many of us are being rewarded? How many are being punished? And these are the many ways to ensure that we have effective law and regulation. Today, there is this balance. Go to court. Because you believe that even if you go to the court, what will happen? We need to stop that. And I believe in ensuring that it is the institution itself that should go all out to show how great and how powerful and how effect it is. The law is there. If today, like somebody about 3 days ago, somebody asked me whether we should have another court for electoral offender. And I asked, what is electoral offender? A crime is a crime. If you steal ballot papers today, it's still stealing. So why should he try to give you some little names, and people always get away with blue murder over such things. So what matters most is to ensure that our institution is as strong as it is. Then you will see that everybody maintain and listen to the law, and that will help the institution and the government, and you have a smooth running of the government. But in a situation where there seem to be some scarce crowd, those who are favored, who are untouchable, the essence of saying that the law should take its course, even if heaven must fall. And I do tell you, heaven will not fall. And why is it that the heaven will not fall? Is because we have institution of government, the police, the army, the media, you and I, and every one of us, to ensure that we hold the heaven from falling on us. But the laws must take its course, and that's what really matters. But in a situation where we pay lip service to things that we need to take serious, today some people will open their mouth, castigate the government. Some will castigate the judiciary, and nothing happened. They will do another day. But yesterday, you can see what happened. what the NBA did. And let me quickly use this one. I know you have been telling me I seem to discuss about the law and judiciary, but maybe that is where I'm coming from. That is why I think we need to play kudos to the NBA and the leadership of NBA by YC Mikhail. If ministers of this government castigated the judiciary, and the NBA took the matter, went to court. Yesterday, the judgment came, and the lady happened to be slammed. I'm sure before anybody would do another thing, they would think of that. If we should be having this for some time, we won't be having this kind of situation. So what matter? Even tax law. If anybody should violate the tax law, what happens to them? You see not. And those who violate tax law are the rich. Where are they? How many of them have been brought to book? So the essence is this reward and punishment. I think it need to be revisited. And NOA, that's National Heritage Agency. I wonder what they are doing. I'm sure you may not like that once using this platform, but I think we need to call a spade a spade. These are the people to let people know this is the way the government, for good governance. It is not only for the presidency to be done. That is why we have departments, agencies, ministry to ensure that to happen. And that is why I think everybody needs to sit and to ensure that this is done quickly. Thank you.
Let me quickly go to Kano, where Muhammad Uthman is standing by. You heard from Dr. Ajula was talking about maintaining strong institutions from the legal perspective. But in your experience, what has made it so much about the big man in the big chair as against the institution he represents?
It's very difficult to pinpoint exactly where we started derailing from. I was wise enough, even though in school, but Ahmad Bello was alive, Tafa Bale was alive, Dr. Azikiwe, Okwara, Chief of him, Ladoke Akintola. All those people ruled when I was wise. I knew what was going on. And we are the people who bought a liter of petrol, 11 kobo. You can imagine what it is today. So, when just 43 years ago, a tin of was 9 kobo, and there was a tribunal, which if traders were taken to for selling a tin of that milk, 10 kobo, and they were jailed 6 months for violating price control. But somewhere along the line, leadership, one kind of leadership after the other up to date, they have even thrown away through the window the oaths of office they take. From Mr. President down to local government chairman or local government councillor, all the judges take oath of office. That oath is there in the Constitution. But what do? People swear by the holy books they believe in, whether Holy Quran or Holy Bible. Even 40-something years ago, I know that in high courts there was even a cutlass for those who don't believe in the other two big religions. They can still swear. You still have to swear. You are going to obey all the 10 commandments the nation set for itself. But what do? Nobody today remembers that he has taken oath of office. People just go and do whatever they like. They have contempt for the people. They don't care because nothing will happen. When you are talking of courts, I know when the courts were even localized. In our part of the country, there was what used to be called Alkali's Court, which transformed into area court. Nobody can dare challenge a judge because the judges were also doing their best to do what is just to everybody. But Nigerians, with oil money, corruption set in, SAF came and finished everybody. And from what happened in the last 30-something years is unbelievable. And therefore, there's no word to explain these things. And we are not short of written laws. But those who don't obey, nothing happens to them. That's why they keep repeating it. And now, when you steal 100 billion, the case takes many years. Even you are even advised to pretend you are sick in court, or they take you to court in a stretcher, and immediately they give you bail. 2 days later, you go to that person's house, you see him walking like a soldier. So some of these things we create by ourselves, and there's no way anything can change if we don't change, if we are not determined to change it. And corruption has become endemic. It's now become like a culture, like a tradition. People are not scared. Anywhere you go, anybody in uniform thinks he has an ATM machine with him. When we are so daft that some people sell us the bogey that our borders are porous, that's why smugglers cannot be stopped. It's not true. The longest border we have is from Gambaru Ngala to the end of Cross River, Akpabio local government. That's the longest border, about 1,700 and something kilometers. The second longest border is Niger, which was 1,565 kilometers. But the people in Niger are 10% of the people in Nigeria. And you can take Nigeria and Republic of Guinea and squeeze it into Republic of Niger in terms of size. But I challenge anybody who is watching me to cross Niger or Cameroon or Republic of Benin. Choose any bush you like. Cross from Nigeria to the other side. Within 30 minutes, you will be picked. So how come when it comes to Nigeria, some people say, it's forest, so we allow anything to go? And from what I know, I have worked in the private sector. I know how expatriates are supposed to come into Nigeria because they are experts to do something in companies and so on. But the immigration is there. Nigerian embassy abroad is there, which gives you visa to come into our country. When you come into our country, immigration are there to receive you at the airport. The following day, they take your papers to immigration office for you to get a resident permit. Now, how come we now allow every Tom, Dick, and Harry to cross into Nigeria? How do they do it? Foreigners come into Nigeria, collaborate with Nigerians. You find them in one of the villages, digging holes. They are looking for solid minerals. How did it come about? No foreigner is supposed to come into a country without entry permit. And he is supervised anytime he goes, wherever he goes. There should be authorities watching what he is doing. But in Nigeria, foreigners come in anywhere. Why? Because we have compromised. Those people who are doing that job has compromised. And everybody accepts that's how it should be. When we are talking of taxation, I don't think anybody is really trying to do anything about taxation. Private sector has cried, and cried, nobody is listening. And even if one government, federal government, for example, back in 27 years ago, there was a decree 91 of 1996, which spelled out taxes payable to federal government, to state governments, and to local governments. Later, when civilian regime started in May 1999, some states tried to domesticate that law and add little more into the list of their taxes to be relevant to their own peculiar circumstances. Today, all the 776 local governments are fixing taxes the way they like it. And they can be very brutal. They hire thugs to stop you with long plank of wood with 6-inch nail. You have to stop. They create tax. They will call it whatever it is. Either you pay them, which is extortion, or they waste your time. And at the same time, no law will work unless all of us work together. But a federal government law is not respected by states, most of the states. A state law is operating only in that particular state. Other states are not. Take, for example, what they call al-majri. This begging is not acceptable. Begging is not Islam. But what do? If a state like, say, Kano or Kaduna or Katsina or Plateau or any one of them, if you ban begging and your neighbors did not do so, so the beggars will relocate until you yourself find that your law is no longer, the beggars themselves, they have their network, that the law is no longer relevant. So they go back, so that you cannot solve the problem that way. So the issue is, all these problems we are talking about, whether it is a court of law, whether obeying court rulings, whether it is I don't care attitude of every Nigerian, we are the only people in the world who destroy our own infrastructure. Why? Because the regulations and the rules are there, but nobody is there to implement them. Anybody you catch, there's a way of settling whoever the catcher is. So, how can you go forward? Now, exchange rate is scandalous. Those of us who are around, one naira is more than $2. To now wake up and see 1,000 something naira to a dollar, nobody can explain. No economist can explain. It's not the argument. The lazy argument is that, oh, Nigeria is not exporting. All right, tell me, please. How can you support an idea where, with all the devaluation these countries have made, rand in South Africa is 18 point something to a dollar. With all the devaluation in Egypt, Egyptian pound is 30.8 to a dollar. Kenyan shilling, which everybody is complaining in Kenya, it has lost its value, is 153 to a dollar. Zambian kwacha, Egyptian pound, Egypt with all the, Sudanese pound, with all the crisis in Sudan, is still about 47 to a dollar. Ghanaian CD, which has been devalued a long time ago, it has reached 12.2 to a dollar. Gambian Delasi, or Sierra Leone, all this, even SEPA. SEPA used to be about 50 to a naira. Now SEPA is 590 to a dollar. While we are talking of naira, whatever it is, I say it's scandalous. Government is not doing anything.
Hold that thought, sir. Just a moment. Let's quickly take 3 of our reports, because very soon our lines will be open. Let's just take thoughts from different parts of the country, then we'll come and then look at, we've identified the problem like people who do projects. Once we identify the problems, methodology, and then we'll look at the way forward. Let's quickly take these reports from Maiduguri, Oka, let's start from Oka, Maiduguri, and then Port Harcourt.
World over is believed to be responsible for the provision of legal and social framework within which any given economy operates, maintain competition in the marketplace, redistribute income, and take certain action to stabilize the economy.
You can't talk about economic growth without talking about issues of governance. Governance incorporates so many things. There are so many indicators of governance. This is where you talk about institutions. This is where you talk about the rule of law. And then, so these things definitely has a way of influencing economic growth.
If you have good leaders elected under free and fair election, the right caliber of people, selfless, courageous, highly articulative, and national interest-oriented leadership, they will ensure that there is selfless management of the economy for socio-economic and political development of the country, and for the interest of the masses.
To this end, governance is to be influencing economic growth, policies and programs. For any given political economy to thrive, these respondents noted policymakers and implementers must be abreast with formulation, implementation, and its impact on the citizenry, hence the need for a square peg in a square hole.
We believe that when you have a very faulty governance processes, you're going to have very faulty economic development rates in the society, because you cannot use what you don't have to get what you really want in situations like this. So governance is so related to economic development.
They harped on the need for political leaders to prioritize welfare of the citizens, which they noted is the ultimate goal of development. In Oka, Benson Osadebe.
Towards ensuring economic growth and stability is one of the cardinal responsibilities of government in ensuring a conducive environment for the people to thrive. Over time, government has come up with policies and programs aimed at stabilizing the economy. For instance, the redesigning of the Naira notes, reducing the quantum of cash in circulation, and the recent removal of fuel subsidy towards raising capital for ensuring infrastructural growth and development, as well as a robust economy and other financial and monetary policies experts describe as steps in the right direction. Experts opine that effective implementation of policies and programs enacted, however, is key in making desired impact.
We experienced, downturn some years back, but we have recovered and the economy is growing.
The economic policy of the government is quite good. It's interesting. They are turning out good policies for the development of Nigeria. However, I still insist, there is a disconnect between the programs government is pursuing from what is the aspiration of the people.
The failure of government to provide a conducive environment for the economy to thrive brings about chaos and untold hardship on the people.
This lack of preparedness is a major problem facing the country because we rely so much on foreign revenue and for currencies. In good times, we, don't plan well, which is a very serious issue. When there is any shock to the economy, it is very difficult to come out of it. That is one of the major issues.
The economy has gone down to the way that I've said, to zero. No policies have been taken seriously.
Experts are advocating citizen engagement in charting a new course for economic growth and development, as well as stringent measures that will help stimulate the economy. In Maiduguri, Tina Turu.
Government in all societies exists for the benefit of the people. This is largely through the influence and implementation of policies and decisions that affect public life, economic and social development. Many hold that good governance promotes rule of law, transparency, responsiveness, equity, inclusiveness, effectiveness, efficiency, and accountability. Poor governance, on the other hand, breeds corruption, implementation of unfair policies, leads to downward economic growth, and notorious for deception.
We want to talk about good governance. Parameters are used to judge governance. Number one, there is one, safety or peace. Number two, we want to see equity. Number three, we want to see efficiency in the allocation of resources.
We look at stability in the governance processes. In other words, there is a greater benefit of the dividends of this democracy to the greater number of the population. But is that what it is today?
When we want to operate a democratic system that is up-down, it cannot give development, cannot give service. That is why you see the leadership, they work for themselves because they are not voted in by the people.
The influence of good governance on the economy, experts believe, is statistically significant at all levels and is fundamental to economic growth, political stability, security, and transformational growth in all sectors of social life. This is because
Government exists to increase the supply of public goods like healthcare and education, social protection, and basic public services.
Western civilization saw it as that system will develop Nigeria. So they said that system was too open. And that is the only thing they had against the system. And that is the best system that will have brought about development and service to the people, because you start from your ward.
To achieve the sustainable development goals, good governance plays a key role in a democratic system by evolving development principles through global partnership and collaboration of all. In Port Harcourt, Emmanuel Lene.
All right, reporters from Oka, Maiduguri, and Port Harcourt feeling the pulse of experts and the people in terms of their perceptions of governance and development. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, the lines will be open, so we'll get perspectives of the audience tonight, across the country on today's topic. And of course, our experts are here to answer and perhaps prefer lasting solution as we look out to what will happen in the new year.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
All right, you're still watching Tuesday Live on the NTA, and we're still talking about governance, and development in the outgoing year, that's 2023. And Mr. Bonjibola of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, you heard from Madam from Kano talking about, policy somersaults. And we've had a lot of policies, especially, from the FIRS, in the not too distant past, our efforts to, what did you say, widen the tax net and all that. Could it be a bit also confusing, especially to consumers and citizens generally, when we keep on having different things every other year? Perhaps could there be an assurance that when you do this now, for some time we will rest and enjoy those measures, and then we'll have new ones?
Thank you very much, Fisher. Yes, over the years, there appear to have been frequent and constant changes in government policies, but not in the tax arena. If, for example, you look at our tax laws, many of them were made before I was born. For example, the Petroleum Profit Tax Act was made in 1959. The Companies Income Tax Act that we have today was actually the Income Tax Management Act of 1961. The Capital Gains Tax Act that we have today was made in 1967. So when you look at the tax laws, they are actually very old. And they don't change that frequently. I think the newest major tax law we had was the Value-Added Tax Law, which was made in 1993, the decree of 1993. So when it comes to the tax arena, we actually have very stable regime over the decades. And the effort now is to bring them up to date in line with the current trend in businesses. When those tax laws were made, there was no internet, at least in our own part of the country as at that time. There was no issue of remote selling or buying or doing businesses as at that time, which we have with us today. And so that is why it's important that we address all those deficiencies that we have in current legislation. I think the part that appears to be moving constantly has to do with issues around the trade, investment, economy, and all of that. That is where we have these constant changes and not having a very good succession of policies that are aligned together to each other. So I think coming back to your question again.
Before you land, I think there's someone wants to make an intervention. Kerry from Lafia. Are you on? Make your intervention, please. Before you land, I think there's someone wants to make an intervention. Kerry from Lafia. Make your intervention.
Hello?
Go ahead, Kerry, and reduce the volume of your set. I'm hearing myself again from your set.
Hello?
Go ahead, Kerry.
Hello?
Perhaps you didn't pay your taxes on that appliance. Go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead, Kerry. Go ahead, Kerry.
Yeah. Yeah. Good evening. My problem is that most of the Good evening. My problem is that
I think we'll get back to Kerry from Lafia as soon as we. But let's just say that if you want to join us, you might need to mute the volume of your TV so there will be no hallback, which is confusing you while you're trying to make your comments on the program. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was saying that when it comes to tax issues, they are actually very stable.
But you're talking about rules guiding trade and all
yes,
that. Yes,
and what I was saying is that our tax laws had been with us for decades, and they are no longer fit for purpose, considering the trend in modern business. I mean, before we are used to the brick and mortar model of business. I mean, for you to do any business, you must be physically on ground. But now you can actually sit down in your room and do business anywhere in the world. And so we need to then be able to upscale our tax rules so that it could cater for such businesses. And then we are also able to use modern technologies to administer taxes, unlike in the olden days when we have people have to stay by the roadside.
I think our caller is back. Jonathan from Jos this time. Jonathan, you want to make an intervention? Please go ahead.
Okay, are you with me?
We are with you.
Okay. Sir, I would like to give kudos to the gentlemen in the studio. They have made a very, very wonderful deliberation concerning the issue of good governance in Nigeria. The truth is that I would like to give kudos to the elder spokesman from Kano. He have already enlightened the whole of the problem in governing this country. The only thing that we need to pick from what he have just said is that the issue of punishing those that disobey law or that couldn't follow the law and reward those that contributed for the growth of this country need to be put into consideration. If not, we will keep on cycling in one place upon problem, from one place to another, coming rather in a cycle pattern in resolving the problem of Nigeria. I think if we really wanted to solve the problem of this country, the elder spokesman have already said, we have the professors, the whatsoever, the technocrats that are there to try. We don't know. So if they can put all hands on deck to see that all these issues that he has just enlightened will be put into consideration, I think we will go a long way. I think that's my own contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan. All right, you were saying something. We're talking about efforts to make our tax laws fit for purpose, and that is in the pipeline now. We are likely to see something, and what timelines are we thinking about? Because this has to also do with some legislation as well.
Yes, absolutely. Part of the brief of the Presidential Committee is also to look at all these tax laws and see how and ensure that they are updated. And I'm sure in a few months' time now, the committee will be coming out with the report on those laws, and then of course we have a process of lawmaking in Nigeria going through the FEC to the National Assembly and all of that. And then on the other side, on the issues of other policy matter, for example, monetary issues, other fiscal issues, the committee is also working with all the relevant agencies to ensure that we begin to have alignment of policies so that we are not working at cross purposes as a single government. And I also believe that is also coming as part of the final report of the committee.
All right. Umar from Kebbi, you're on.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening,
My
Umar.
name is Umar Anachi.
calling from Birmingham. To me, Nigeria is only faced with two problems. Only two. One is the issue of corruption. Corruption is being celebrated rather than being tackled. Take an example of Accountant General. He was alleged with billions of naira, but he was celebrated in Kano with a traditional title. So that is how it is all over the nation. Corruption is being celebrated. Then the other problem is lack of strict adherence to the rule of law. For example, once a Nigerian steps into Niger Republic, he will observe even the traffic light. He will observe it. But once he steps in Nigeria, he becomes in another world entirely, different from the one that he set up, different from the one that he visited. He thinks everything done in Nigeria is free. Everybody will move alongside with what he wants. Everybody doing what he likes. Nobody observed the rule of law. May God continue to bless our country. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You perhaps want to say something about that. It's an attitude thing now these days.
It is an attitude in that thing, but like I do say, this could be changed. It is about mindset. And how do we change this? Is a way mechanism to deter, and again a mechanism again to reward. And that's why I talked about reward and punishment. How many people have flouted the law that they are serving the sentence, or they are being booked for that? It is so sad. Only the poor, and I think this is a general knowledge. So we should not say it in national TV. Only the poor that seem to be at the brunt now, and even that is just category of brunt or poor that don't have anybody to call to speak for them. You see today, police will pull you down up. The next thing is to pick your phone and to say, oh, your boss wanted to speak to you. These are the things that cause most of the problem. Like the person that mentioned Niger very close there. There are some things that you need to do. Many times I'll be coming from the UK, you see those that will be on the queue as you are landing from the plane. Some people will just even be picking people out and they will disrupt the old line. And these are the things that I think the best thing is, let's deter people by letting them whatsoever they should do wrong. We should know how to deal with it.
I will share my experience with you just brief, but let me quickly hear from Sani from Asokoro. Sani, are you there? Sani from Asokoro, are you there?
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
This is my first time of contributing to this. I want to thank the gentlemen that you have on the panel. But of specific interest, it's like we did not listen to what the panelist from Kano is trying to tell us. You see, this issue of exchange rate, it is mind-boggling, it's ridiculous. And this perception that we have been given that is as a result of the fact that we are not producing is false. 100% false. Very false. Look, what is making our exchange rates to go high in the manner at which it's going, in my thinking, is corruption, is stealing. People steal naira and they look for dollars. If you go to Zone 4 here in Abuja, you don't need to go too far. Just go to this Zone 4 here. You see, we deceive ourselves too much in this country. Go to this Zone 4 here. Go and see how much naira is exchanging in a dollar on a daily basis. Who are these people looking for dollars? Go and find out. Secondly, what I want to say is that we have a very lazy parliamentarian, very lazy lawmaker. Since 1999 to today, legislative processes and practices have not changed. It is the same thing they are doing that they are still doing. The man from FRS is telling you that the laws establishing the FRS and the Act. It is since 1962. But these people will wear abada every day. You will see them in the manner at which they go about lawmaking in this country is ridiculous. I specifically want to thank that man from Kano. I think Nigerians should listen to him. It is ridiculous what is going on in this country. We are talking about a country where people cannot even afford to feed. Christmas is here. Have you ever? Do you imagine what Nigerians are going through in the hands of very poor leadership? So my advice is that it's two things. The question actually is: are Nigerians actually ready for change? Are we ready for development? We Nigerians ourselves, are we really ready? That is the question. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sandy from Asokoro, for your contribution. Let's ask Prof in Kaduna. It seems as even if you come up with policies and all that, if you have a laissez-faire approach to, ensuring that these policies are, follow to the letter, especially even the drivers, and we allow corruption to continue to, perpetrate itself, we may not go too far.
Specific and is very clear to all of us. One, most of the policies are not well thought out, and these policies are handed over to our leadership. In most cases, we have not thought what will be the outcome. For instance, just this exchange rates matter. It is not well thought out that, yes, what happened when we just make a pronouncement. And that's, there wasn't any thought about it, and it's just speculation. Nothing more than that, speculation. Because there are countries with examples that they stem out speculations and their currencies remain stable. So like it has been said, it's not in rocket science, but rather your ability to define what your country, because the issue is that the entire governance structure is based on what can I get as an individual, not what can we do to humanity or to Nigerians to benefit from. What can I get? If I can get, that's why the health system collapsed. Nobody cared about it. And the next thing, he has a headache, he flown out of the country and made Nigerians, trained Nigerians to treat him to wear over hostel. So also did to education. Just flown their children and come back, and that's it. So that also shows the lack of seriousness of the leadership to address certain issues with really well thought process in terms of policy.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof. Let's hear from Salisu in Kano. Perhaps he is agreeing with some of the issues that you just raised. Salisu from Kano.
Yes, please.
Go ahead, please.
Yes. Yes, hello. Good evening, gentlemen.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you very much. Well, I will commend our guest. Thank you very much for the wonderful contributions. Well, to me, Nigeria is a beautiful country with a lot of technocrats, experienced people. But the only problem with this country, as other contributors said, is corruption. Honestly, corruption is everywhere. In our educational sector, even in our judiciary, everywhere. That's the only single problem we have in this country. Even our religious leaders, what have you, there are a lot of corruption everywhere, corruption surrounding this country, honestly. This is the only cancer that is in our blood, I'm sorry to say. But this country could have been one of the best countries in the world, honestly.
Thank you very much. Okay.
As always, Nigerians can pray. And I believe God is with this country. And honestly, the country will be better, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Salisu. I wanted to share, a brief experience with you just this afternoon at about 4:15. We were at a traffic stop, and it was still reading 57. We were about 16 vehicles, I counted 16 or 15. Everybody left. It was myself and a nurse remaining on that, and I felt that maybe I was doing the wrong thing, because the thing was still reading 57. It was on red, and I felt, are we the ones who are crazy in this traffic stop that everybody has gone, including vehicles that had I don't want to mention the law enforcement agency, with the crest on the on the door of the vehicle, and everybody disobeyed that traffic and left, and then it was just myself and a nurse in a Corolla just beside me, and then so we were looking at ourselves like, are we crazy? How do we stop that?
Yes, for example, they disobeyed because there's no consequence. I think there is consequence that maybe there will be a point, or maybe once they are getting home, the camera will pick their number plate, and maybe so amount of money they will be asked to pay, like what happened in the UK. You will see that nobody dare jump the traffic light. But unfortunately, because there's no consequence, and even if actually there's any police there, they realize that with 100 naira to 500 naira, they'll be off the hook. So why not take the risk? I think this is what we are saying, and this is the same thing about everything about our nation. Whatsoever that is done, nobody will pay the price for it, and because of non-payment of price, anybody choose to do anything. For example, you pick a ballot boxes and you mess it up. At the end of the day, even there will be a big reward for you for stealing the ballot boxes, because you may be appointed as a commissioner of a board chairman or anything. So what will now make others to join you to do what you are doing? So what matters most is that, like I mentioned, we have a perfect law. All our legislation perfect, because I did a research in trying to do comparative analysis of our legislation with even the one in the UK and the United States. UK and the United States, you find that the Nigerian legislation is perfect. We don't have a problem with that. But when it comes to the implementation and the people's our attitude to such law is something, and and again we must say this: our government, they hardly obeys law. The only law you see them obeying is the one that help their interests or they do something to their fancies that they believe is convenient for them to obey. Simple things, you find out that things change, turn around, and who is to bear the cat? It is the people.
All right, Mohammed Issa from Mina. Mohammed Issa from Mina, you're on.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Isayo.
Good evening.
Yeah, how are you? Good evening, how are you?
Fine. Go ahead, please. Good morning now. It's morning now.
Thank all your panelists with all what they are discussing. Okay, we are ready in the morning. In the morning.
Yes, go ahead, please.
I want to sincerely thank all your panelists with what they are discussing. And I believe in Nigeria, we all knew our problem. Why don't we go to the solution of our problem in Nigeria since 1960s? We know what is our problem. I believe by now we should be discussing the solutions. If everybody is calling corruption, how can we kill that corruption in Nigeria? We should look for that. We have laws, perfect laws in Nigeria that are okay for us, but we are not implementing them. The only one thing I agree with President Tinubu to become a president in Nigeria, because in Lagos State there is what we call discipline, and that is why Lagos is what it is today.
Oh, thank you very much, Mohammed Issa from Mina.
So we should get to the roots, and then let's go to the solution, please. That is my contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mohammed Issa. Let's quickly, bring in Mohammed Othman from Kano. You've listened to some of the contributions from some of our callers, and a lot of them, agree with you, sir, on some of the things you have said. And we are looking at, you are a voice of experience. And what can we learn from the past? There seems to be a disconnect in terms of that generation and now. A lot of you are still around and all that. But how did you allow things to slide this way? We must ask you.
Well, I wish I know, because I'm also a victim. If I have a way, I will not allow it to happen. But I believe military rule from 1966 to 1999 probably has something to do with it. So many things have happened under the military. They have the good sides and the other side of it. But all the same, oil, this oil, notorious oil, is a curse. Because since 1958, when we started drilling oil commercially, to date, we didn't use it. When we saw we have oil industry, we don't have any oil industry. We remain as crude as the oil itself. We grab it from underground, send it to refined people who refine it. We follow them. The money they give us for crude, we give it back to them to give us refined, because we are not refined ourselves. What we don't appreciate is that when you refine, all the byproducts are for economic purposes. Every paint, every plastic, all the roads you use, the fuel you use, for whether it's aviation or for cars or for whatever it is, it's all from that oil. So if you don't refine it, you are not going to get it. You give them crude, they give us so and so dollar per barrel. There was a time when a barrel went to $9. Now it has gone to 70 something. That's not a big deal. We are just wasting money. We are just wasting resources. We are destroying our environment in the name of oil. And we are all lazy because of oil. But if we are not using oil for what it is, we are just how come West African countries in our same Equatorial region that don't have oil, but they have refineries that are working? How come every year money is budgeted for turnaround maintenance, but not a single liter comes out of the 4 refineries? We used to have 5 lines underground that goes to places. Tankers go to those stations to take. Now you invite more than 300,000 tankers to go to Lagos and carry fuel, and grab the same road, the same small roads. So Nigerian roads, even if Julius Caesar who comes and construct Nigerian roads, they will not last. Not talk of Julius Berger or anybody else. We are our own worst enemies. One government after the other, they keep repeating the same game. NNPC has taken our hostage. Somebody somewhere, I don't know who it is, but the mafia that are controlling our economy are working in sync. They will not allow anything to happen. They will not allow our refineries to work. Therefore, we keep importing. And when we import, we dump it in Lagos, called farm tanks on Creek Road, and then tankers go there. Create problem for Lagos, create problem for Apapa, which was never meant for that kind of thing. Apapa originally was commercial residential. Now it is more than anything, it is more than industrial. All the roads leading to Lagos, one corner of Nigeria, all roads leading to there, all tankers going there, all containers going there, everything. So an oil tanker will start at 3,000, now they even have 60,000 cubic liters. Everyone is a bomb. Every one of them is a bomb if there's an accident. And they pass through our towns. There is no difference between three-wheeler, a bicycle, a pedestrian, a Toyota or any other car will follow the same route with this dangerous cargo going all over the country, instead of doing the right thing or instead of maintaining what used to be around. NMPC depots where tankers go there, short distance. Now, we take pleasure in creating problem for ourselves. And we live and we worship heroes who do not deserve to be worshipped. Nobody is doing the right thing, but we all hail them. So I don't understand, when we are complaining, who are we complaining to? Because we have been complaining. Everybody who promises something, by the time he gets into office, the mafia does not allow him to perform. Sit every Wednesday, discuss at the executive councils, either at the state or national level. Come with policies, but nobody will implement them. Those that are implemented are partial, just to serve some pecuniary interests. Now, let's go back to my colleague who is talking about tax laws. It's not really the tax laws. The tax laws can be as old as anything. But we have to take into consideration that some of the laws came when we had 4 regions. Now we have 36 states. Every one of those states are competing with each other. How to put taxes, how to enforce taxes. By doing that, we wipe away investors. How do you invest in a situation where you give yourself water, you give yourself security, you give yourself everything you can think of, and they come and tax you? And when they tax you, you don't see any benefit of why they pay their taxes. So that's why private sector is crying and nobody is listening. And what we don't understand is that if you give an enabling environment, private sector set up businesses, private sector will take out all those people who are marauding on the streets. Private sector will give employment, will give taxes to government. But if you don't, if you squeeze it, if they are out from outside, then they exit. If they are local, they die. Come to Kanu, go to Ikeja, go to Trans Amadi, Port Harcourt, go to Enugu layout. What you used to know as industries. What are they now? What are they there now? Abandoned properties. Enterprising Lagos people, religious places go and take over warehouses all over Ikeja. That's very unfortunate.
Much for your interventions tonight.
This discussion we are making, those who have ears to listen, who have the right to policy to do, please do implement the policies. Let's see a change. Let's change attitude, even in governance, and let there be continuity of policies. Not that we set our policies, everybody who comes will start digging for a new foundation, and before he lays the first block, time is out for him to go. Another one come and repeat the same mistake. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Malam Mohammed Othman, for your contributions tonight. We thank you for being a part of the program. Let's go quickly to Professor Mutaka Usman for your final comments on the program and the way forward, governance and economic development. We'll be moving into a new year in about just 2 weeks, under 2 weeks. What should we be looking at in the new year from the perspective of the policymakers and those who the policies are being made for?
No, I think it's very clear that for any governance issue, for any policy to exist, it has to be meant to serve the people, not to serve a certain level of interest. And it is clear that over the years, these policies are not meant to improve the lot of Nigerians, but rather serve the interest. The interest Alhaji is talking about is one of it are local and some components are foreign, because some of our debtors now leave attend meeting of Federal Executive Council to make sure that whatever they said, just last week, the World Bank said the price of PMS is low as anything. So don't be surprised by next 2 weeks, the government will say, no, the price, we need to jack it. So it is that any policy that you are going to do must serve the interests of Nigerians. And the policy maker must put Nigeria first rather than any particular interest. So it is important for us to, going forward, with all the gamut of crisis in terms of the fiscal space and in terms of what we are facing in terms of challenges and the religion we need to build up. There is a need to understand all those issues and put the context within the context for Nigerians. And let me quickly say about the tax issues. Yes, it is not a tax date that is important, but there has been changes in those tax using the financial acts. VAT was 5%, it's jacked to 7.5. All these are to make Nigerians to have access to livelihood. Once that policy doesn't provide the livelihoods, it's no longer relevant, and it will not serve the issue of the Nigerian state. And the Nigerian project is very important for individuals to feel that this must be sidelined. It is important to look at all policies that we are going to do is to improve the lot of Nigerian people.
Thank you so much. The task before the taxman.
Yes, thank you very much, Fisayo. And thanks, Prof. I think that was very instructive. The truth is that we are in a fairly challenging time. And just like the analogy I used earlier on, the rope walker, certainly we need to balance things. We need to balance our revenue drive. We need to balance it with lessening the pains. We also need to balance with providing infrastructure that is going to drive economic growth. All of these are bundled together. And that is where all of us is required to contribute to this. And in terms of contribution, we're talking about providing suggestions, providing counsels, and also assisting in enforcing the rules. Because I mean, one thing that kept on recurring is that we do not have a very good reward or a system or punishment system for those who break the rules. But the truth also is that when the citizens do also not provide relevant information to the necessary authority, a lot of things will go and we will not be able to correct them. I think Dr. Ajulo's experience had always been my experience. Your experience in traffic had always been my experience. A lot of time, I'm the only one. People go either through the right side or the left side, and I keep asking myself, are you crazy or are you right? But then I saw the red light, I can't go because something in me says it's not right to go. And I think we need to move forward. Lagos appears to be doing something about that by using technology. And I think it's very important that we need to begin to embrace the use of technology. Just like Dr. Ajulo said, you do that in UK, the camera snaps your plate number. By the time you get home, you get a bill under your door. You won't do it the second time. So these are some of the things that
there are also ramifications in terms of you even being considered for positions of authority when you are a serial violator.
Thank you. Absolutely.
So let me quickly take Dr. Ajulo, because time is no longer a friend on the program. You have been, an advocate of the masses, but now you are a senior advocate of Nigeria. So you have a much bigger voice, although I saw that you are almost losing your voice even now on the program, but we will need that in future days. But what are your final comments on this topic? We've talked about governance, and economic development. We've talked about the position of the law, but marry all together as we move forward.
Marrying together, like when we talk of governance and when we talk of development, what matters most first is the public resources and then public affairs, how it is managed to serve the people. Now, people is the major thing, and how do you allow this to happen is basically to ensure how effective serve it. And I think we've discussed it. And again, government need to reassure people that they should have faith in whatever they are doing. Not that today, there are some things that even public officers need to do, and they are not doing it, and the government is looking the other way. Like, for example, you see the issue where someone supposed to have done this, and you find out that he's not doing it. And for example, how many people has even been what would I call penalized for doing a very simple thing, for even serving, doing the right thing, particularly when it comes to law. If instead of being punished, you've seen that they're even being elevated, being promoted, and you see that the people are looking. These are the simple things that makes this when we have all this kind of thing. And that's why I think I will repeat it. I don't know where the issue of one losing his voice come from, but what matters most here is simple thing of reward and punishment. We must ensure that we do that. When we don't, then things will go wrong. Today, many people will even say, Minister so has done this and nothing happened to him. Why shouldn't I do? Why should I go ahead with it? These are the simple things that make what we did.
On that note, I want to thank Dr. Ajulo SAN for coming on the program today. We hope that when we call you again, you'll be part of Tuesday Live. And let me also thank the elder statesman, Mohammed Othman, who joined us from our Kano Network Center, from our studio in Kano. Thank you very much for being a part of the program today. And many thanks to Professor Mohammed Mutaka Usman, Professor of Economics from ABU Zaria. Thank you so much for joining us via Zoom and giving us, opportunity. Because I know that if we were to, get you in, we would have to pay so much, Professor of Economics. It's not so easy to get you guys in the studio. And of course, the tax man has been Mr. Matthew Bonjubola, who's been giving us insight into, what government is doing, especially through the FRS, to look for creative ways to get money at the same time, not to pinch our shoes too much. That has been Tuesday Live for today. Many thanks to our callers for their insights from all over the country. Until next time, we will come your way with another topic. My name is Fisa Ogunfuyi. We have been watching the Nigerian Television Authority. Thanking you for staying tuned. All the best. Enjoy the rest of the day. And think about what you can do for your country, not what your country can do for you. Good morning.
Thank you.